Hello guys and welcome to Geek4Geeks. In this video we are going to talk about variables in Go programming language. I hope you're excited, so let's get started. In Go, as in most programming language, a variable is a name that refers to a value. In Go, you need to declare a variable before you can use them. So here is a simple variable declaration and then we will assign it down here. Each variable you declare needs to have a type. So here we say that this variable will have a type of int, and then we can also assign integer to that variable. You can declare multiple variables of the same type at once. So here we declare integer variable named b and c, and here we assign values to both of those variables. We don't have to declare the type of a variable if it can be inferred from its initial assignment. So if you assign an integer value 5 to the variable d here on the line where you declare it, you don't need to declare the type of d variable. It will be just inferred automatically since this is an integer value. Go also offers short variable decoration, and this will be the most common form of variable decoration you will use. Use the syntax right here, a colon followed by a is equal to sign with the initial value that you want to assign to the variable. That's the same as saying var int is equal to 6. Now if we run the sample, we will get a compile error for all these samples saying they have been declared and not used. Just like you're required to use every package you import in Go, you also have to use every variable you declare. An unused variable often indicates a bug, and Go helps your development team to spot these bugs quicker by reporting unused variables. Since this is just a quick example, the way we will use the variable is by updating the last line to print them all out. So we will say format.print line a, b, c, d and e. Save it and rerun it. And now that we are actually accessing all the variable names somewhere, the program will compile and run successfully. It's also possible to assign a multiple variable at the same time using commas. So here on this line we declare a and b variable of the type int, and here we assign values at the same time. 1, 2 get assigned to a, b respectively. That is, a becomes 1 and b becomes 2. Here we assign initial value to the variable c and d right here on the declaration line, and here we use a short variable declaration to assign the initial value to variable e and f while simultaneously declaring them. And if we run this program, you see that it prints values for all the variables down here. The same rule applies for names of variable, constant, functions and custom types. A variable name has to begin with a letter. So if it begins with a number as it does down here, that's not valid. A variable name can be followed by any number of letters or numbers, however, so long as the variable name begins with a letter. If the first letter is lowercase, the variable is unexported and can only be used within the current package. The same is true for constant and functions as well. If the first letter is uppercase, however, the variable is exported and can be used outside the current package. You can also assign values of the declared type to a variable. So let's say that we have a variable named whole number, declared it as int, and a second variable named fractional number declared as float 64. If we try to declare a new variable of the type int named whole number 2 and try to assign the fractional number 2 to it, or try to declare a new float 64 variable and try to assign a whole number value to it, we will get compile time error saying that we cannot use the type float 64 value as an int value for the assignment to a variable. And we can't use an int type for assignment to a float 64 variable. We can assign the value if we do a conversion, however that's another case. So if we were to type int and put a fractional number in parentheses here, that would convert the fractional number value to an int value before attempting to assign it to an int variable. Likewise, down here we can put the type float64 in parenthesis and put a whole number. That will convert the whole number to a floating point value before trying to assign it to a float64 variable. Let's save that, try running this again, and this time it will succeed. So anytime you need to do a conversion, you write the type of that you want to convert followed by the value that you want to convert in parentheses. You also need to convert both operands to the same type prior you do math operation or comparison. So up here we have an int and a float64 variable, and we try to add one to the other as well as do a lesser than comparison between one and the other. And we can see that we get a compile time error down here. If we try to add the fractional number to the whole number, we get mismatch type int and float64. And we get the same error if we try to do a comparison between two values. Again, we can get this working by doing a conversion first. So let's convert both of our int values to float64. Float64 whole number, and we will do a conversion here as well. Float64, whole number. Save that, rerun it, and this time it will work. A variable scope, that is the section of your programming which includes its variable, is limited to the block in which it's defined. Blocks are chunks of code surrounded by curly braces. They are usually associated with functions, if statements, and loops, all of which we will see later. But it's possible to use blocks all by themselves. Even though it's surrounded by curly braces, each package is an implicit block. Variables defined at a package level are accessible for every block nested within that package. Most importantly, that include bodies of function. So if we would define a variable named A that appears at a package level, it will be visible everywhere here within the main and within any other function that we declare within the main package. Now this variable B, however, is defined within the main function, which you will notice its body is surrounded by a block, so that variable B is visible here within the main function and within any other blocks that are nested within the main function. The same thing with this block here. We have defined the variable C inside it, so that's also visible within the scope of this block. And this variable D is visible only within the innermost block. So you can see that we make reference to the values or to the variables A, B, C and D here on several lines. However, the only one that does not have an issue is the line over here. That's because the C, B and A variables were all declared before this block and therefore still visible within. However, the D variable was declared inside this block and therefore its scope lasts only as long as this block is still running. So when we try to reference the variable D down here on this line, we get an error at compile time saying that variable D is undefined. The same thing with this line over here. We get an error saying that both C and D variables are undefined down there because the variable D was defined up here in this block and is therefore its scope only lasts for that block, and the variable C was defined in this block and the variable C was defined in this block, which is also out of the scope by the time we get down to this line. So this is a quick overview of declaring and using variables in Go. Don't worry if you don't remember all of these details. We will be recapping as needed in later videos. Well, I guess this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, just drop a like. See you in the next video. Happy coding until then.